Today's forum is about opportunities, including the opportunity for you to continue to work with us to improve how we do things. Also a chance to understand new projects and programs and how to access them, a chance to expand and improve your businesses, and a chance to deliver a better service to the people we deal with every day. So on that note, thank you for listening to me for an introduction. Thanks for coming today, and I look forward to hearing the engagement today in the forum. Stay well and take care. I'll just hand over now to the Director of the Victorian Energy Upgrades Program, Jeff Safire. So thanks very much, Jeff.
Thanks, Kate. And I'd like to also say hello and welcome everyone today. It's great to see so many people here online. And as Kate said, I'm Jeff Safire, the Director of the Victorian Energy Upgrades Division at the Essential Services Commission. I'll also be the MC for today's forum, this forum being about the 30th or maybe the 32nd such VU forum that the ESC has conducted since 2008. And it's also the third, and I hope the last virtual forum we have, so fingers crossed that we get through the next little period. First up today, I'd like just to quickly go through the forum agenda. The forum will run for about 1.5 hours and we'll finish about 3:30. We'll be focusing on, as Kate mentioned, on how we can all work together within the VU program to improve outcomes for all stakeholders, whether that's the general public, credit persons, installers, lead generators, as well as highlighting improvements to the ESC's processes for administering the program. So specifically today will be about opportunity, improvement and change, with a focus on how we can work together to ensure the benefits of the VU program are spread so that everyone wins. First off, I will talk about the year we've had so far and run through a few numbers to show how the program is going. Then I'll cover a few key matters which I believe are important to share, so there is common understanding of where we're going and the challenges we face. Then the Department of Environment, Land, Water and Planning, or DELP as we know them, will present on upcoming new activity changes. The final presentation will be from Nick Bell from Sustainability Victoria. Nick will discuss the Small Business Energy Bonus. He'll give an overview of the program that helps small business to upgrade equipment and how VU accredited persons can get involved. We do have an apology for today. Homes Victoria are not able to attend today's session, so we hope to provide further information on their program at a later date. We will be taking questions during today's proceedings. We invited questions to be submitted with the RSVP to the event. However, I don't think we received any through this channel. For all of you online, you can use the Zoom chat function to ask your questions. We'll have a 5-minute Q&A session after my presentation and a 5-minute Q&A session after the DELP presentation as well. And then we'll have about 20 minutes of time left at the end of the forum for more questions. There may be lots of questions, so could I ask that if there are similar questions already in the chat, try not to double up. Now that all attendees will have visibility to all questions posted on the chat function as well. We will follow up on all questions if they have not been answered during today's session. We will also take questions from the virtual floor if we have any time left at the end of the final question session. So you will need to use the hands up function when that question time comes around. In relation to questions, I just also wanted to mention that if you have a question that may be contentious or is of a highly technical nature, we'll take those questions offline. So in posing your questions, please remember the audience we have here today when submitting them. Now we've covered that off, let's get down to business. I'll now discuss the program in 2020-21. It's been an interesting time so far in 2021. We've been saying that for some time now, and as I said, fingers crossed we can stop talking about COVID soon. The ups and downs of COVID have caused some issues in the program, but we seem to pivot and bounce back each time. And it's not just COVID. There's phasing out of lighting activities, changes to other activities, and the introduction of new activities have all kept us on our toes. And it's a great testament to the program and to people who deliver it that there is a level of flexibility and diversity in the program that allows us to keep all going and the program to continue to meet its goals. I'd like to thank all participants for their patience, professionalism, and agility in dealing with the changing landscape. I've really appreciated the discussions, emails, and feedback I've received from many of you. So thank you for playing your part in remaining safe as the program has stopped and restarted. I'd also like to thank the staff of the ESC administering the program during these difficult and changing times. Well done, everyone. And on the topic of change, we have a number of changes on the way. New activities, amendments to the existing activities, new issues, and other program changes that we will discuss this afternoon. The other focus for today, as Kate had mentioned, is compliance enforcement, and the focus the ESC will have in this area going forward. I will discuss this later in the presentation as well. Despite the significant challenges, there's been a surge in activities and matters in 2021, and we'll touch on many of these today, and we'll give you the opportunity to engage with us on those matters. The VU program changes over the next 12 months, coupled with other government programs that have commenced, will provide many opportunities for existing and new VU participants as the program moves ahead to 2025. Today, we will also touch on the preparations the ESC is making to introduce these new changes. So first up today, I'll present a review of the program by numbers, and then I will touch on several matters the Commission has been dealing with in 2021. So as far as a summary of 2020-21, you can change the slide, please. As at 30th June, there were 14.4 million certificates created and 13 million certificates registered that are available for surrender. Of these, about 6.5 million are required for acquittal of the 2020 compliance year obligations. And doing the math, you can see there are sufficient certificates to meet the 6.5 million certificate target for 2021. I'll also note that the target for 2022 is 6.7 million certificates. So it appears certificates are already being created to meet next year's target. During 2020 and 2021, we approved over 1,100 products, bringing to over 18,000 the number of products we have approved since the start of the program. We also approved over 1,300 new installers, bringing to over 5,500 the number of approved participants in the program. On the next slide, as we know, this has not been a straightforward year. There have been many twists and turns, and this is shown in this monthly certificate creation chart. However, overall, we have seen high numbers across the board, with creation rates in shower rows, residential 21 lighting, in-home displays, or as we call them, IHDs, business-based lighting, and the hot water activities having increased significantly. The chart shows monthly created certificates by activity for the full 2020-21 year. You can see that in July to September, creations reduced from 500,000 per month to 300,000 per month, with building-based lighting dominating. Creations increased to 400,000 a month in October and November, with residential activities recommencing in November. From December, the proportion of residential activities, shown in yellow in the residential lighting, has increased from around 500,000 in December and January to over 900,000 per month in May. June was slightly lower at 800,000 certificates created. Creations were also seen over multiple activity types, including for project-based activities, space heating, weather sealing, refrigerator purchases, and high-efficiency refrigeration display cabinets that are in addition to those activities I mentioned earlier. For VICs created by activity, as on the next chart, in 2020 and 21, a total of just over 6 million certificates were registered, with about 3.3 million certificates registered for building-based lighting, 1.8 million certificates for activity 21 lighting. Water heating contributed about 475,000 certificates, and refrigerated display cabinets topped the 130,000 certificate mark. We've also seen a big increase in IHD installations, accounting for over 100,000 certificates. Similarly, there have been over 100,000 certificates registered for the shower rows activity. Project-based activities came in at about 40,000 certificates, and we expect this to increase significantly going forward as more project impact reports are submitted to the Commission. There are also over 40,000 certificates created for the fridge destruction activity that is now longer a part of the program. And there are also smaller numbers in some of the other activities noted in the slide. During 2021, we have continued our auditing program and recommenced our field audit investigations program. We've also addressed a number of stakeholder queries and complaints. Our audits and investigations have led to accredited persons surrendering about 50,000 certificates a year. Can we change the slide, please? We have also handled nearly 40,000 queries, including over 1,800 from accredited persons, over 1,600 from consumers, and facilitated a review of about 380 complaints, of which we have resolved over 320. Next slide. Overall performance numbers since 2009 show 5.3 million separate activities in residential separate activities, with about 5.1 million at residential premises and about 200,000 at non-residential premises. A total of 73.6 million certificates have been created and 68 million certificates have been registered. Now I will discuss some specific administration matters. In our registry area, we've had a big year. At the beginning of the restrictions, the registry team streamlined its validation process to ensure that certificates were processed quicker. This streamlining has led to over 50% of all certificate batches being processed ahead of our target, with 96% of batches approved within target timeframes. A great effort by the registry team. Well done. Activity 21 lighting and shower rose activities continue to be a focus for pre-registration assessments. We have developed systems and processes to target high-risk activities where we're concerned about possible ineligible baselines. An increase in shower rose creations has resulted in an increase in ineligible activities being created, where the baseline consists of products installed under the old 2008 regulations. The registry team is working through these matters. We've also seen an increase in complaints as a result of recent activity in the shower rose installation area, especially in relation to product quality. Accredited persons must have a rigorous complaints handling process in place to preserve the integrity and reputation of the VU program, especially in the shower rose area, to ensure consumers are happy with the shower roses they are receiving. The ESC is monitoring complaints closely to ensure APs appropriately resolve all complaints. If complaints are not resolved, the ESC will consider escalating the matters as appropriate. Also, at the recommencement of activities after lockdowns, the registry team checked AP's COVID-safe plans. We did this to emphasise to APs the need to have these plans in place prior to commencing work and to ensure APs understand their obligations and the consequences if WorkSafe or COVID-19 authorised officers checked on them. We reiterated these requirements during 2021. Another area the registry team manages is the accreditations process. During 2020 and 21, there have been an increased number of businesses seeking accreditation to participate in the VU program, mainly existing APs seeking to get involved in additional activities. However, there have been a few businesses seeking accreditation, U accreditation, and a few seeking PBA accreditation. We've also seen a few businesses seek accreditation for the gas efficiency activities, and this is great. We hope to see some certificates created in these areas fairly soon. Of particular interest to me from a compliance perspective is that there are businesses still seeking to get involved in the lighting activities, including the residential lighting activities. As with all applications for accreditation, the ESC will be taking a close look at these lighting applications to ensure the applicants have the requisite capability to undertake the activities and are fully conversant with their VEU, occupational health and safety, and Australian consumer law and other obligations, and fully understand the consequences if they breach their obligations. At the Commission, we place a particular emphasis on ensuring businesses understand and are aware of their obligations, and our rigorous accreditation process reflects this. To cater for the increase in applications, we have made a few changes to the accreditation process for additional activity applications to speed up the time to approval. Previously, participants were required to meet the audit compliance team prior to having their application approved. Under a revised process, the audit compliance team now meets the accredited persons after the additional activity application has been approved. This allows accredited persons to undertake activities and begin generating certificates much faster. All new APs and APs gaining approval to complete additional activities have their initial creations reviewed. This is a long-standing activity we do. The scope of these initial creations, however, of these reviews will be expanded now in line with the streamlined accreditation process. So the advice there is ensure that when you create those initial certificates, they are created appropriately according to the requirements. In relation to the new activities coming on board, such as cool rooms and commercial heat pumps, the Commission is developing the application processes for these activities. As these activities may require specific and specialised skills to complete, we're looking at ways to use these specialisations to streamline the application process with a view to improving the accreditation processing times further for these new activities. Now on to project-based activities. For project-based activities, or as we call them, PBAs, we have conditionally approved about 380 projects, and there are about 119 projects on our public register. As we noted at the December forum, we expected and received a significant increase in impact reports from accredited persons in the last 6 months. We've received nearly 40 impact reports since the start of the PBA activity in around 2017-18, and about 25 of these have been submitted in 2021. We've also approved 32 impact reports since the start of the activity, and 21 of those have been in 2021. Many of these impact reports were received in June this year, as APs sought to have their impact reports approved by 30 June. The Commission reviewed and adjusted its processes to ensure as many of these impact reports were approved before 30 June to allow APs to create the certificates by this date. I would like to give a special thanks to those in the ESC's project-based assessment team who worked very hard and showed great agility to quickly implement a new process in late June to deal with these project impact reports. Well done and a great effort from all those people. The ESC is expecting the surge in PBA impact reports to continue and the number of PBA certificates created to increase going forward. Recently, DELP released a document describing the procedure APs can use to account for COVID or other declared states of emergency when undertaking measurement and verification projects. DELP will provide further information on these provisions later this afternoon. For those accredited persons who have been impacted, I encourage you to understand the new provisions to see if they may apply to your projects. We are also seeing an increasing interest in solar projects as the rules have been amended to make it easier for solar to be included in PBAs. We estimate that these solar projects will account for about 20% of certificates generated from PBA projects going forward. Now on to compliance matters. As I mentioned at every forum, the Commission needs to be assured that the certificates claimed by APs are valid. We have provided guidance for APs to collect and retain information that will assist us gain that assurance. When requested, you are required to provide the evidence to us. The quick provision of requested information means we can assess it to gain the necessary assurance and progress certificate claims to registration. If you cannot readily provide the information, then we may need to investigate the claim, and this can take some time, especially if we have concerns about the installation. A specific area that we have found challenging over the last few years that unfortunately appears to have arisen again during the lockdown period is our concern about what was the actual baseline environment when an installation activity takes place. The program requires that certificates can only be awarded for the replacement of lights that were part of the original baseline environment. To me, this is simple enough: old lights replaced by new lights. All we ask is evidence from the installation that clearly shows that the old lights were removed and replaced from the installation address. I think this is a simple task that all accredited persons should not only be able to meet, but must meet. The SE concluded a major review in regional Victoria during 2021, where we found some significant non-compliance in the certificates created by 2 APs, where the baseline upon which certificates were claimed was enhanced. The APs were not able to provide sufficient evidence to the Commission to justify the full number of certificates claimed, leading these accredited persons being required to surrender approximately 30,000 certificates back to the Commission, along with each receiving a warning and conditions placed on their accreditation. The Commission is continuing to review installations to ensure that baselines, especially for commercial and business premises, are not being enhanced. Where breaches are found, APs can expect the Commission to come a knocking. So I implore APs to audit the information being provided to you by your installers to ensure that it meets the requirements of the VEET Act, the VEET regulations, VEET guidelines, and our activity guidance. And importantly, your installers provide you with the necessary evidence that the installations do comply with requirements, because we will ask for it. In response to our concerns in this area, the Commission strengthened the evidence requirements for lighting installations so that we can better identify the original baseline environment being replaced. For high bay product replacements, accredited persons are now required to provide geotagged photographs of the removed ballast boxes lined up in a row with the lamp holders facing up and in focus. Also, an electricity invoice issued by the energy retailer to the consumer at the upgrade site is required. The electricity invoice must be issued for the last 3 months prior to the activity date. In relation to installers and third parties, we have also received a number of concerning complaints, some involving inappropriate approaches to consumers by lead generators, including to the elderly and to minors, and some involving inappropriate or false claims of benefits or reasons to take up the program. These approaches have caused distress to the families involved. When these matters arise, the Commission investigates them as we do for baseline enhancement matters, and when breaches have been identified, we have referred them to the appropriate authorities, whether it's Consumer Affairs, Energy Safe Victoria, or the police. Most of the matters arise as a result of door-to-door sales activities. As the Commission and the Department have noted in our communications over the last 12 months, door knocking as a form of lead generation is allowed in the program, and we all want this to run smoothly to benefit the program. However, we are getting increasingly concerned at the nature of some of the complaints. The Commission is working closely with DELWP to monitor the actions of accredited persons and lead generators and to investigate what options are available to us to hold APs and third parties to account. These complaints are taking quite some time to resolve. As I've informed the APs involved, when these complaints are received, we will assign our limited resources to investigate and resolve the complaint and not assign those resources to assessing the certificates created by that AP. So I emphasise to all APs, monitor your lead generators and installers and ensure they do not breach the Australian consumer law and other requirements in sourcing and completing VU installations. Now, in relation to relevant entities, our audit of the 2020 compliance year certificate surrenders is continuing. Many of you will know that the Commission provided all relevant entities the opportunity to request a 3-month extension to the 30 April 2021 due date for them to surrender their 2020 compliance year certificate liability. A number of entities took up the offer, however, most surrendered by the original due date or shortly thereafter. Several businesses are still due to surrender their liability, and these are due at the end of July. The SE will then assess whether any relevant entity has a shortfall in certificates surrendered, and we will take the required action pursuant to the VEET Act. Now on to matters undertaken by our planning and development team. This year we released several program updates, such as to our mandatory safety training requirements, where we recognise the new MSD courses in our system and gave 3 months for APs and the registered training organisations to transition to these new courses. There were changes to the refrigerated cabinets installations. Installations required to reflect feedback we received that the use of plug-in fridges may not require a licensed electrician to install. In terms of evidentiary requirements, we updated our requirements for shower roses in response to stakeholder feedback, as well as amending the evidentiary requirements for building-based lighting that I mentioned earlier. We also incorporated the new incentive values for Activity 34. We are working to reflect the new values for Activity 21 lighting and the change to the electricity emissions factor from the 1st of August. We also finalised our consultation on changes to switchable lighting products, and we're continuing discussions with relevant participants that are impacted by these changes. We are participating in the VEET Act review that is being conducted by DELWP. We're also preparing for and will be releasing future program updates for all new activities, including for cold rooms and commercial heat pump hot water system activities. These releases will include information on the application processes to allow businesses to participate in these activities. We are also updating our IT system to include all of these changes. In relation to our IT system, we recently imposed a search restriction limiting queries to 1,000 rows. This was done to alleviate a concern with the system performance caused by excessive system queries by some participants. Obviously, there are times when queries may be required for more than 1,000 rows. In these instances, multiple separate queries may need to be carried out. We're investigating ways to improve the performance of our IT system so we can return the performance to the levels previously seen. And finally, the Commission has moved its office to 570 Bourke Street, Melbourne. We've essentially settled in with all services commissioned and in use. So hopefully we can soon enter a more normal hybrid working setting. And I look forward to future meetings and forums being held in Melbourne CBD, where we can catch up face to face. So that brings an end to my overview. I see there are some questions that are in the chat, so I might go to those, and we'll spend the next 5 minutes seeing if we can answer some of those questions. I'll just go to the top of the list here, and we'll have a look at those. Question 1. Why didn't the ESC name the installers electricians? The industry needs to know company names and responsible people to avoid repeat via other APs. This is a good question. It's a question that's been asked quite frequently since we issued the media release last year. The position of the Commission is we don't believe that we're in a position to mention the installers' names at this particular point. There are quite a few things that we need to go through. So what we have done is forwarded those installers to the appropriate authorities. Second part of the question, how will the ESC make sure these installed electricians will never be involved in the VU program again? Again, as a follow-up for that, there are quite a number of things the Commission and I suppose the industry needs to take into account when we have a look at the installers' non-compliance. The key thing to remember there that the VDAC places the jurisdiction for the Commission to look at the APs, and so there is some restrictions on us on what we can actually do. So we do take the point there that publicising who the installers are will be a benefit of the scheme. So we're now currently just working through a process where we can potentially do that going forward. But currently there are some concerns with us going down that approach. There's now a question from Green Energy Trading. I'll just go down that. Significantly delayed response times to inquiries sent through to the help desk seem to indicate the team may be overworked. Are you going to hire more help desk staff to get response times down? Take the point there that on occasions response times can be extended. I think that as you can see, we do get a significant number of queries, nearly 4,000 in the past 12 months. We'll be looking at that process. Over the years, we've had increased numbers in that particular area, so we'll take that comment on board. Have a look at our times. Overall, our times are fairly good, and that the current rates, we are quite happy with those times, but we'll take that comment on board to see if there's can be some improvements made in that area. There's another question there. The 1,000 row limit is less than the number of jobs in a batch sometimes. When can we expect this limit to be removed? As I mentioned, yes, my batches might be over 1,000. As I said before, in these situations, you may need to go there and do multiple searches. We are looking at ways of improving the time. I did notice today, actually this morning, things seem to be working a lot quicker for me. Working from home today, so we will be looking at that. Hopefully we'll get some fixes in place fairly soon. Can't give a timing on that, but we are looking at improving that as well. There's a comment from here from Rod. ESIA strongly recommends that ESC establish a register of approved installers. Aim is to prevent rogue contractors moving from AP to AP without redress. Why can the ESC not do this? I think I mentioned that before, but we'll be having a look at all areas of concern in this particular point. So we'll see what we can come up with that going forward. I think the last question I have here, oh, no, another one's come in. What is the current status of the proposed VU portal overhaul? This has mentioned many forums ago, and it would be good to know in order to prepare our systems. It's a good question. The update for the new system is still going ahead. It's taking a lot longer than what we initially thought. We thought we would be close to getting up and running now. We're still going through the reviews. I can't give you a timing on that. Suffice to say that all the changes that will be made will be done on the existing system. And so for the next little while, all the changes will be done on that. And when we'll be in a position to tell you the status of any cut over to the new upgraded Microsoft system, we will do that. But that will be a little time away. So all current changes will be using the existing system for the time being. And the last question before I'll hand over to Delp is, there was a sudden focus on BB power switchable luminaires that was never really explained. How that was a significant one. I think I might take this one off board because I'm not quite following what that question is. Okay, it's now sort of just gone after 2:35. We'll take any more questions at the end of the session, the last presentation. So keep those questions coming. If there's any more follow-up to the responses I've given, we'll do that later on today and after the session. So that brings an end to the ESC portion of the forum. Now I would like to sort of introduce my colleagues from DELP, Jack Brown, Alex Atkinson and Paul Lang to discuss the upcoming program changes. So first up, I'll hand over to Jack. Welcome, Jack.
Thanks, Jeff, and really great to hear all those updates from the past year. Thanks also to Kate for your introduction and welcome, appreciate it. Hello all, I'm Jack Brown, Acting Director, Energy Demand and Efficiency Policy at the Department of Environment, Land, Water and Planning, or DELP as we're known. I'm going to speak to you briefly today about policy developments in the VU program. So you might note that Helen Cefelli has previously spoken to you in the role of Director at forums like this one we're having today. And just letting you know that Helen is no longer with the department and the recruitment process is underway to engage another director to look after the VU teams at DELP. Now, in terms of what I'll present on today, following a brief introduction, I'll touch on the current VU program review that's underway, outline the changes to emissions factors for the program that will occur in a couple of weeks on 31 July. And then I'll pass on to my colleague, Alex Atkinson, who will provide an update on our work on new and revised activities, and then to Paul Lang, who will give you an update on large energy users. As always, we encourage you to contact DELP via the VU email address, energy.upgrades@delp.vic.gov.au with any questions you might have. Next slide, thanks, Jason. So, as Jeff's mentioned today, and you'll no doubt be aware, we are conducting a review of the Victorian Energy Upgrades Program, including scoping potential changes to the Victorian Energy Efficiency Target Act, or VEET Act. And that act governs the program. As indicated by the scope diagram on this slide on the right-hand side, the objective of the review is to strengthen the legislative structure of the VU program, and there are three key elements to this. So we're consideration of strengthened program compliance, consumer protections, data privacy requirements, and within that things like third-party contractors and installers and lead generation type folks who may not be covered by the Act at the moment. The second element, investigation of the role of the VU program post-2029 when the program is due to end, and as well as what role the program should and could play in Victoria's energy transition. Finally, the third element is how the VU program and VEEC market drives investment in energy efficiency markets and supply chains, and what can be done to improve the access Victorian businesses and households have to program incentives. And there's obviously more to each of those elements than what we've shown on that scope slide. So how we are doing this includes completing research, range of research pieces, including a survey that we recently conducted that reached over 2,000 program participants. Thank you if you did participate, provide feedback. We've also discussed and considered policy options internally and had discussions with the ESC administration of the Act. We'll be consulting soon on papers on these major themes, and I encourage you to provide your feedback when those papers have been made public via the Engage Victoria website. So your feedback will inform recommendations on potential changes to the VEET Act. And just to note, there'll be no immediate changes. And if there are changes, they're likely in late 2022, so next year, or in 2023. So again, to reiterate, any questions you might have or to subscribe to the DELP VU mailing list, you can do that by emailing energy.upgrades@dalp.vic.gov.au to keep up to date on what we're doing. Next slide, please, Jason. Thank you. Now, I'd like to briefly touch on the electricity emissions factor changes that are coming in on 31 July in a couple of weeks' time. So these emissions factors, electricity emissions factors, will be changed for deemed and PBA project-based activities in the VU program, and that will be done in line with the transition timelines outlined in the response to consultation for the recent targets RIS for the program. So for deemed activities, things that are in the, if you like, the principal specifications, changes will be brought in via a revision to the VU specifications, and this will separate out the electricity emissions factor, or what we're terming EEF, in the calculations for each activity. And we're doing this because that allows us to change the emissions factor for future years. The decrease in emissions factor, because there is a decrease coming, will impact on different activities in different ways. And it really comes down to how much of the incentive in that activity is due to electricity consumption. So as shown in the table there, for weather sealing, this activity includes assumptions on the mix of space heating types and gas usage in Victorian homes, and the emissions factor will decrease, actually only mean it will decrease by about 6% in the incentive, so rather than the full expected 13%. Below for shower roses, and for similar reasons on the mix of electricity and gas in that activity, and the use of different water heaters and different fuel types, the emissions factor will only decrease by about 10%, and there won't be any change in VEECs. For part 21, incandescent lighting, and for part 34, which are electricity for all parts of those activities, there'll be a full 13% decrease. And similar in-home displays, while they're electricity based, there won't be any change in certificate creation for that activity. So the key takeaway for emissions factor changes won't be an even 13% decrease across all activities. It will depend on the fuel mix and the activity assumptions. It comes into the program, these changes come into the program on 31 July this year in a couple of weeks. And also for M&V projects that forward create, the electricity emissions factor will be assigned to the implementation start date, while M&V projects that annually create will use relevant emissions factors listed in the National Greenhouse Accounts Factors publication applicable in that year, with these factors added to the M&V specifications each year. So the changes to the electricity emissions factors are to align the Victorian Energy Upgrades program with the reducing emissions intensity in our electricity supply. And you should note that the gas emissions factor for the program won't change. So that's my brief update on policy changes. I'll now pass to Alex for an update on our activities work. Thanks, Alex.
Thank you, Jack, and hi everyone. I may be a new face for many of you. I'm Alex Atkinson, I'm a Senior Policy Officer here at DALP, and I work on our new and revised activity work program, and I'll be providing a brief update on that program today. So firstly, on new activity updates. So the commercial and industrial heat pump water heater activity. This is a proposed new activity that rewards emissions reductions through the replacement of existing gas or electric resistance water heaters or boilers, or installing a new efficient heat pump water heater at a commercial or industrial premise and the common area of a multi-residential building. The consultation for the C&I heat pump water heater activity closes Monday, 12th of July. Thank you very much to everyone who made a submission and provided feedback on that activity. Thank you as well for those who attended the information session. It was a really valuable forum, and we'll be reviewing all the feedback that we've received and considering this as we further develop the activity. Just to note as well, we have been working in close collaboration with New South Wales ESS program on this activity. Their consultation is open until the 25th of July, and I would encourage you to submit feedback if you haven't already. On cold rooms, so we are expecting to introduce the cold rooms activity into the program next month. Cold rooms are refrigerated storage rooms where food and beverages are kept cool or frozen. This activity is designed to really improve the efficiency of these cold rooms. There are around 65,000 cold rooms in Victoria. The VU activity has 3 different types of upgrade activities that can be undertaken. We're looking forward to releasing and implementing the activity, and we would encourage any feedback as that activity is introduced into the program. Work also continues on smart thermostats and hot pipe lagging. We consulted on these activities at the beginning of the year, and we do expect to consult again later this year on those activities. Building energy management information systems. This activity is focused on improving the efficiency of commercial buildings using systems and platforms that monitor and manage energy usage. We were proposing to consult the end of this year. It's likely that consultation will be at the beginning of next year. We've identified overlaps between the building EMIS method and the existing benchmark rating and MMV methods, and want to make sure we understand those overlaps before we commence that consultation. On to revised activity updates. So refrigerated display cabinets. So these are products designed to store and display chilled and/or frozen food items. Currently, VU provides incentives for the installation or replacement with high efficiency refrigerated display cabinets, or RDCs, that are registered to the GEMS 2012 determination. We will be updating the activity to align with the new Greenhouse Energy Minimum Standards 2020 refrigerated cabinets determination that came into effect in May this year. The updates that we'll be looking at for that activity will be to provide incentives for models that are registered to the 2020 determination. We'll also be looking at expanding the activity. This will provide more opportunities and introduce new product classes that are covered by the GEMS 2020 determination. We'll also be looking at introducing new formula to calculate the energy savings with the GEMS 2020 determination, introducing an energy efficiency index to measure energy performance. We'll also be looking at providing a transition period where both GEMS 2012 and GEMS 2020 products can be installed. So we do plan on releasing a consultation paper for this. That will be sometime next week, and that will outline all the proposed updates. The consultation will be open for 4 weeks, and we will be really, really keen for the stakeholder feedback on the proposed updates to that activity. Also, just to mention, we're in the very early stages of reviewing our space heating and water heating activities. The Australian New Zealand standard AS/NZS 4234 was published last month. We will be reviewing our water heating activities which leverage this standard. There'll be further details on these projects over time, and we will consult as these projects progress. Finally, on M&V, thanks, Jason. On M&V COVID provisions, so the M&V COVID-19 provisions have now been released. These provisions have been developed, which are to be applied when calculating emissions abatement for VU program M&V projects that have been affected by COVID-19 or other declared state of emergencies or state of disasters. So a number of provisions, and these include extending the time frame from which eligible baseline operating and reporting periods can be chosen, using shorter measurement periods, or adjusting energy models to account for changes in site constants. There is a guide available on our website for stakeholders to understand how to apply these provisions. So I encourage you to have a look at that document and download it from our website. That sums up the updates on the new and revised activities program. Just to reiterate Jack's message, I encourage you to keep up to date by subscribing to our mailing list or sending us an email to add you to it. And with that, I will hand over to Paul for our update on large energy users.
Great, thanks, Alex. Yeah, for those that don't know me, I'm new to the department, about 3 months in as the manager of large energy users. A new team under the VU banner. So yeah, particularly looking at large energy users. So for just a quick background, we're doing a review of the Victorian Energy Upgrades exemption arrangement for companies, large energy users and other users that are currently exempt under the scheme. That's an existing arrangement under an old EPA EREP arrangement, and there's a need to update and make a consistent exemption framework for all users as part of the scheme. So we've started a consultation in late 2019, early 2020 on a new framework, and the proposal that we're looking at, which will continue to do a further consultation this year, which I'll talk about in detail, is about large sites that all sites will be in the program, and large sites, the ability to opt out of the program if a site uses over 100 terajoules of combined gas and or electricity, undertakes manufacturing, mining or agricultural activity as defined by an ANZIC code, and can demonstrate best practice to energy management systems to ISO 50001 or equivalent. So we're up to at the moment, we're looking to have a further stakeholder consultation that was delayed or was put on hold due to COVID. So we're looking to reinvigorate the stakeholder consultation, looking to do that in Q3 2021. So in the next couple of months, we'll be releasing that. We're looking to consult on changes to the eligibility statement that I've mentioned above there for exemption, and also around the possible or potential implementation of energy management systems and what that will look like. The timeframe for transition is, you may know, for those that have been looking at this previously, we've pushed the start date out 12 months to the 1st of January 2024. It's due to a number of reasons, but it will give us time to consult better, make a better implementations phasing and staging through 2022 and 2023, with the framework looking to come into effect for the 1st of January 2024. So expect that there will be an update to the regulations following the consultation. The regulations will be changed. That's a process we'll go through. Currently, there's no requirements or current exemption framework remains in place and until the updates are made. So the current status stays as is, and we will be notifying stakeholders about the public consultation when they're available. And obviously, we welcome your input and feedback to the consultation. That's all I've got to say on that one. I've got a second slide to talk about some funding that we've recently that was available as part of the delayed 2021 budget, 2020 budget. So November budget last year was announced that there's $31 million for a business recovery energy efficiency fund. $24 million was allocated towards capital works and $7 million to energy demand management, including energy management systems, as I previously mentioned, that we're looking to potentially get into place for organisations. There was 2 rounds closing in pretty short time frame in December last year and the 31st of January this year. All the applications have been assessed and the successful applicants have been notified. Public announcement was made on the 25th of June by the Minister, and we the full details of the 100 or so, 100 to 110 projects that are available were announced last Friday on the website. So the details of the organisation, type of technology has been made available. At this stage, there's no further rounds. That's a question we get asked a lot, as you can imagine. So I'll answer that one now. There are no further rounds at this stage that we're aware of, but as we said, with our 2024 timeframe for the kickoff of the exemption framework, we will be seeking further funding to go through an additional round if we can, but there's nothing set in stone. But that would be our intention, so that as part of the lead up to the implementation of the exemption framework changes, that there is a further round of funding to assist the appropriate businesses with that. That's all I had. So I think I'm throwing back to, there's the email address that Jack mentioned earlier. So again, so we have a broader VEU stakeholder list, and I also have a targeted large energy user list as well. So if you're interested in both or either, send us an email that address. If you're not already on the mailing list, and indicate that you'd like to be added. I think we'll go to the questions that are in the chat for DELP at this point, I imagine.
Yeah, thanks everyone from DELP. Thanks, Jack, Alex, and Paul. There are only a few questions in the chat that I can see. The first one is, what is the level of evidence required to show that a site's energy consumption was not affected by COVID?
Yeah, thanks, Jeff. So the guide that we released along with the COVID provisions does have some information on that question, but it is also with the ESC as part of the administration of that activity on what level of evidence is required. So perhaps, Jeff, you might want to take that on notice, or I can to yourself work them on.
Yep, we'll take that one on notice, I think. Yep. And the next question there is, are you able to provide an estimate on when the smart thermostat consultation may be released?
So fully at work on this consultation. It is I guess it's a complex activity. We want to make sure we get it right. And you will see in some of the types of issues that we're considering or looking into as part of that initial consultation paper. So the second half of this year, we want to release that. And I admit that that's quite a broad amount of time, but we do want to get this activity right, including the draft regulations and specifications that go along with it. So second half of this year for that one.
There's a question on refrigerated display cabinets, so the GEMS 2020 changes. Just trying to see what the question is.
Yeah, thanks, Jeff. I can read that one. So I appreciate the amount of time that's passed since the original determination was published. It does underline how long it can take to review certain activities, and look, really the positive story out of refrigerated display cabinets is that it's not just a revision of an existing activity, it's actually an expansion of an existing activity. So we go from one product class that's eligible for VU incentives through to 4, I think, Alex, from memory. So it's a big expansion of that. We also had to change the calculations sit behind that activity as well. So I do appreciate it's been some time, and apologies for the amount of time it's taken us to get to this point, but I hope that you be able to provide feedback as part of that upcoming consultation, and then we can really turn those draft specifications around quickly and get the new ones into the program as quick as we can.
And there's another question there, Jack, on smart thermostat. Will smart thermostat and plumbing pipe installation be part of new activity developments that mentioned at the last board? Yeah,
so thanks, Jeff. Alex mentioned both those two activities we're looking at consulting on later this year. So thermostats complexity, the hot pipe lagging is similar timeframes.
And the last question is regarding measurement and verification. The current rules with respect to effective range are contrary to the international MOV best practice. They cause extreme complexity and uncertainty. Okay, that's just a comment. So any comment from the department on the rules of MOV?
I encourage John to email that question through to us and or the ESC. Certainly we want to make sure that rules are appropriate and fit for purpose, and we're happy to discuss that.
All right, thanks for that. Thanks for our DELP colleagues for answering those questions and with the information they provided. Now I'd like to introduce Nick Bell from Sustainability Victoria, who'll discuss the Small Business Energy Bonus Program. So I'd like to welcome Nick.
Thanks, Jeff. I think I'm just trying to get up the slide pack now, I think. Yeah, so my name is Nick Belgu. I manage the business solutions team at Sustainability Victoria, and I'm here today, thanks for having me, to go through the ins and outs of the Small Business Energy Saver program that SV is currently delivering. So to give you a bit of an overview of the program, it was released on March 7th by the Minister, and again was in last year's state budget. The program aims to provide a stimulus measure for small businesses affected by COVID-19 primarily, reduces small business energy costs across Victoria, and encourages the uptake of VU activities in this sector. So that's a pretty important one, obviously, for this audience too. So encourage uptake of existing activities, encourage uptake by, trades in VU, and generally raise more awareness about VU and the opportunities for small business under VU. And also, of course, is assisting reducing greenhouse gas emissions, and that's where SV steps in. So a bit of an outline, as I mentioned, it was funded through the COVID Recovery Mission 6 economic recovery, so it's part of a stimulus package. There's $5 million for eligible upgrades under the program, that's a budget. And we're looking at upgrading up to 5,000 businesses under the program. APs, under the program, the incentives are actually delivered through APs. So they're paid out on eligible VU activities, which I'll go into further, and we use registered APs under this program. So if you're an AP and you're eligible to register under the program, we invite you to do so. We currently have 17 registered APs since March 7th when we launched, and the registration cutoff date is the 31st of August this year. The program end date is the end of this financial year, June 2022. And again, when we talk about small business, we mean businesses that employ 1 to 19 FTE employees equivalent. So they could have more than 20 employees, but they've got 1 to 19 full-time equivalents. And we are excluding agricultural primary producers under this program, primarily because we've got incentives available under the Agricultural Energy Investment Plan being delivered by Victoria. And to put in context, this program runs very much in parallel with VU. So again, incentives are provided for VU activities where VEECs are created. If I go to the next slide, that'd be great. So a bit more of an overview of the program. As I said, the $5 million in funding will be delivered through accredited providers who register under the program. They pass on the bonus as an additional savings to the VEEC discount for selected VU activities. And so some of the activities you'll see in a bit, some of which have been a high rate of uptake under VU, some not so much, and I'll go through those. So together, the bonus works with the VEEC incentive to provide, an 85 to 95% discount overall, in some cases free. And the program is currently capped at $2,000 per business. That will be under review as the program goes, and the incentives and the caps are due to change over the life of the project to meet its objectives. We've got a higher bonus for regional activity. We understand sometimes they've got restricted access to the VU incentives and service providers in their area. So we're actively trying to engage with trades in the regions to get them involved more in VU. And APs calculate the bonus or the incentive amount based off the VEECs they create. The APs that are registered under the program, we provide a funding allocation on a rolling basis. So you're given an allocation, and once you get through that or near to that point, there's a review that's undertaken, and we decide on how things are going if you receive another allocation. So it's issued to APs on a rolling basis. Next slide, thanks. So eligible upgrades. This is a bit of more of a customer-facing slide, a business-facing slide, but hasn't got the activity numbers behind it. But as you can see there, replacing inefficient electric hot water services, gas hot water services. I won't go through the entire list, but there's quite a bit available there. Again, there's some activities that haven't traditionally seen high uptake, but we're hoping with the bonus and the incentive that they might get trades more involved with split system upgrades in small businesses and thereabouts. Lighting hasn't been included in the program for the reason that obviously incentives are fairly high, and that's quite well serviced with small business. So we're trying to focus on the other areas and sort of really stimulate some activities again in the regions and with trades who might have traditionally not engaged with VU. So here provides a bit of a slide. This is again some marketing material that we've got a lot of different parties putting out promotions of. So hot water heat pumps, again, we take an estimate of what the cost is and try and give businesses a bit of an idea on, what sort of incentives they might be receiving, but also what on average they might be saving. A lot of our data comes from our extensive energy audit databases, which come from programs where we've done energy audits on 300 plus businesses. So we've taken that and we've put together sort of some communications to give some idea to businesses what they can save. Obviously, it's highly variable, both in the incentives received and the savings, but it's just to give some businesses some idea and, you know, alert their attention to the opportunities to save through energy efficiency. If I could go to the next slide. So when we talk about promoting the program, something that I think of is a broader advantage to APs in the industry at large is we've engaged with, I think we've got now 8, what we're calling intermediaries. Another term we could give them, not as accurate as it's sort of lead generators, and they are greenhouse gas alliances, local government organisations, basically going out, speaking to small businesses within their municipality, and letting them know about the program, letting them know about the opportunity under VU, and subsequently, you know, this program, and also alerting them to other energy saving opportunities, such as the Compare Energy website to get a better rate, or some broader energy saving advice that we've collected through other programs. They've just been engaged, they're now contracted, and they'll be getting into work this next month all the way through the end of the program. So we look forward to seeing their engagement with the community on VU on that. A bit more about their role. Again, probably repeating what I already said, they promote energy saving programs to eligible small businesses, including this one. You may or may not be aware, but simultaneous to this program, there is another program, so Solar Victoria, that is expanded from homes to small business. So there's up to 15,000 rebates available for solar upgrades or solar PV system installations. So effectively, businesses, small businesses in Vic now finally have some offers available for them, and it's part of the intermediary's role to, you know, get the attention of small businesses to take up those offers. A little bit there about the relationship with APs. We only can put through leads, I guess, or referrals to registered APs under the program. So they will be engaging with APs and passing on those referrals and working out amongst themselves how they service particular areas and meet businesses' needs. Next slide, thank you. Yeah, so here is just a quick snapshot of some of the marketing material. Again, we're out there promoting the message through various industry groups, business groups, local government. We've been getting a good response to date. I think since launch, we're at least just direct to us, about 350, almost 400 inquiries direct, but there's also inquiries going straight to APs who are registered under the program, you know, just to get straight to the source and seek upgrades. Just gives you a bit of an idea there, but letting you all know we'll be making a lot of noise about this program until its closure at the end of the year. Next slide, please. So for further information, I've got those links there. We have a landing page for business, but we also have a landing page directly for APs. So you can go there, find out about the conditions of the program, find out about the rules for APs and whether you do or don't want to register or can register under this program. So encourage you to look at that before the cutoff date, and happy to answer any questions now, and those that I can't, you can always go to the contact us area on our website to find out more. Thank you. The last slide, I guess.
Thanks, Nick. That was a few questions have come through. I don't know if you can see them in the chat, but I can sort of read them out for you if you like.
I think it's up to attendee. What's the updated SBS program, or is it too early due to COVID lockdowns, etc.? So I think that's our first question. I'm happy to go through them.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're at a rate at the moment of about 45 installations out of the 5,000, but we have got APs that are registers out there now currently installing. So we expect a lag period before we see those in, but we see the APs that are registered, their projections are going up on what sort of installs we'll get. So we expect that to jump quite rapidly over August and beyond. So yeah, low at the moment, but projected to rise quickly.
Okay. I think there was an earlier question about if the $5 million could be used by June, what happens next, or if it's not used, what happens next? So is it?
Very good question. I guess it's an age-old question of any government program or stimulus package. The shorter answer is I don't know. Like any government package, we have a project, we have an amount of time. So at the moment, there's no forecast or planned extension of the program or anything. So like many other programs I've delivered, that question comes up. Unfortunately, I'm not not sure of where to after the 5 million.
There's another question here, which I'm not exactly sure what it's referring to. We need to have some VEECs registered, so that's our area, to be able to go ahead with the Sustainability Victoria scheme. Does this have to be under the prescribed activity? So,
yes, yeah, essentially. So this calls to the mechanics of the program. So what we were able to do under this is leverage off the existing compliance and process that you're all used to and that ESC administers, and then provide a small layer of compliance and document requirements on top of that in order to meet the needs of our program. So we do actually function off the premise that once a VEEC is created, that is when we can actually go through the payment process. I won't get too into the mechanics, but we can do work prior to then and try and keep things moving. But ultimately, we pay on the creation of a VEEC certificate. So
I think that's all the questions on the list there. So it's now just nearly 3:15. So we do have 15 minutes left for people to ask any more questions. As I indicated earlier, I think you can put your hand up to ask a question. Is that right, Jason?
There's a little button, a little in the bottom panel there. There's a little thing saying raise hand. And if you hit that, I can give you permission to speak, I suppose.
So if there are any other questions participants want to raise? Not getting any feedback there. I'm not sure that's the case. I think we've answered most of the questions. Previously, there was a question on building-based switchable lighting products. So we'll have to get back and answer that question. You know, we don't have a response there at the moment, so we'll get back on that one. And then there was a follow-up question on the effective range that was raised as well. So we'll get back and answer that question as well. Okay, well, we're not getting any further questions either through participants raising their hand or any questions through the chat. So if that's the case, I'd just like to thank people for their attendance. It's been sort of 6 months since we've had our last forum, and we'll have another one later in 2021. A lot has happened in the last sort of little while, 6 months, and I'm sure a lot's going to be happening in the next 6 months as we transition to the next phase of the VEU program with new activities and the phasing out of lighting activities over the next sort of 12, 18 or so months. So the scheme that we'll be transitioning to will be significantly different to the scheme that we've been probably participating in and being used to for the last 5 to 10 years. So it's an exciting period for the scheme, and look forward to sort of continuing on the journey with all of you as we sort of take on these new challenges. As far as today's session go, I'd like to thank all the speakers for their presentations. A lot of great information that's come across, and specifically, I'd like to sort of give a shout out to Jason Cox, who put together the session today. Put us all in line, sort of developed my slides, and sort of got the presentations through from the other agencies as well. So thanks to Jason for all the great work. Also like to thank Kate for opening the session. As we've sort of emphasised throughout the duration scheme, the ESC as administrator scheme sort of wants the integrity of the program to be maintained, and so we're going to be out there sort of banging on your doors and ensuring that all activities are sort of achieved and sort of installed appropriately within the requirements, and so that will continue. So with that, if there's no more questions, and I don't see anything coming through, we might call it a day. So again, thanks everyone for your attendance, and hopefully we can catch up in the not too distant future and continue discussions. If there's any other follow-up that people do require, by all means reach out to myself or other people within the ESC on matters pertaining to administration of the scheme, and yeah, we'll take it from there. So thanks everyone, and thanks for your attendance. Bye everyone.